Imagine waking up with no alarm, no office, no deadlines, no schedules, and no idea what day it was. At first, it sounds like freedom, but now imagine that every hour of your survival depends entirely on your own actions. Before jobs existed, ancient humans did not separate life from work. Survival was life itself. There were no weekends because there was no system to escape from. Every morning began with a simple question: how do we stay alive today? Food, shelter, weather, and danger shaped every decision. Ancient life was not empty. It was full from sunrise to darkness. Modern people often imagine ancient humans sitting around waiting for something to happen. But the historical reality was completely different. Ancient humans lived in motion. They searched, explored, carried, built, repaired, observed, and adapted. Their world demanded constant attention. Even resting had a purpose. Every sound could signal opportunity or danger. Without written plans or organized labor, daily life became a continuous cycle of decisions. Their time was not controlled by clocks. It was controlled by seasons, sunlight, and survival. Most ancient humans lived as hunter-gatherers for thousands of generations. Their daily routine depended on where they lived and what resources surrounded them. A day might begin collecting water, checking fire, preparing tools, or tracking animals. Children learned by watching adults. Knowledge was not taught in classrooms. It passed through observation and repetition. Every action carried value because mistakes had consequences. Daily life was practical, immediate, and deeply connected to nature. Archaeological discoveries suggest that ancient humans spent fewer hours in structured labor than many modern workers do today. But survival tasks demanded flexibility instead of fixed schedules. Some days required intense effort. Other days allowed more rest, storytelling, or social interaction. Life moved in cycles rather than routines. Success was measured by preparation and cooperation instead of productivity charts. Their work ended only when immediate needs were satisfied. Daily life was also social. Ancient humans rarely survived alone. Groups shared responsibility. Some searched for food, while others protected camp, repaired tools, watched children, or prepared fire. Cooperation became one of humanity's greatest advantages. Around evening fires, stories were shared and knowledge passed forward. These moments were not entertainment alone. They were survival technology. Long before careers existed, human connection was already shaping civilization. As human communities became better at survival, daily activities became more organized. People began specializing naturally. One person became skilled at making tools. Another understood animal movement. Someone else remembered safe paths and seasonal changes. There were no job titles, but roles already existed. Ancient humans were not unemployed. They simply lived before work became separated from life. Their contribution to the group created identity and purpose. In many ways, ancient days were less about earning and more about belonging. Archaeological evidence suggests ancient humans invested significant time into activities that were not directly about food. Cave paintings, carved symbols, decorated objects, and ritual spaces reveal something surprising. Humans were creating meaning. Even in difficult conditions, they made time for expression and culture. This tells us ancient people were not simply surviving. They were thinking, imagining, and building identity long before civilization appeared. A hidden pattern appears across ancient societies. Much of daily life was shaped by energy conservation. Ancient humans did not waste movement. Walking, hunting, gathering, resting, and socializing formed a balanced cycle. Survival required efficiency. This pattern appears repeatedly in archaeological and anthropological studies. Ancient people were active, but not constantly busy in the modern sense. They understood that energy saved today increased chances tomorrow. One common misunderstanding is that ancient humans had endless free time. Another is that they suffered constantly. Reality existed between both ideas. Some periods were difficult and dangerous. Others offered calm, social connection, and periods of rest. Ancient life was unpredictable, but not always miserable. Their world demanded adaptation rather than permanent exhaustion. Historians still debate exactly how much time ancient humans spent on survival tasks. Different environments created different realities. A coastal group lived differently from a mountain group. Seasonal changes transformed routines completely. Because ancient life left limited written records, researchers continue reconstructing everyday human behavior from physical evidence. A new perspective changes everything. Ancient humans may not have asked, "What do I do for work?" Instead, they asked, "What does the group need today?" Responsibility was immediate and shared. Purpose came through participation. Their identity was connected to contribution rather than occupation. To reconstruct a normal day in prehistory, imagine waking with sunlight, restoring fire, collecting resources, repairing tools, moving with your group, eating together, sharing stories, and sleeping under changing skies. Every action connected directly to life itself. Nothing felt abstract. Nothing felt distant. Ancient humans experienced emotions we still recognize today. They laughed, worried, hoped, feared, and cared for one another. Their days were different from ours, but their humanity was familiar. Looking into ancient life is often like looking into an earlier version of ourselves. The greatest historical lesson may be this: humans existed for thousands of years before modern jobs appeared. Work systems changed, but human needs remained similar. Connection, meaning, purpose, and belonging existed long before careers and schedules. So what did ancient humans do all day before jobs existed? They survived, explored, created, learned, shared, and adapted. Their days were not empty. They were filled with tasks directly connected to life. Before employment, there was participation. Before careers, there was community. And perhaps that forgotten rhythm still tells us something about ourselves today. As generations passed, humans slowly became better at predicting the world around them. They remembered animal routes, seasonal changes, and places where food returned every year. Daily life became less random and more organized. Without realizing it, ancient humans were creating the first systems of planning. Their days still looked simple from the outside, but inside, every action existed centuries of shared memory. Time itself felt different in ancient life. There were no calendars hanging on cave walls, and no hours counted on clocks. Humans measured life through sunrise, cold seasons, migrations, and stories. One day flowed into another naturally. This slower rhythm allowed deeper attention to the environment and stronger connection inside groups. Ancient children did not prepare for future jobs. They entered daily life immediately. Learning happened through participation. Carrying water, collecting wood, observing elders, and repeating tasks became education. Childhood and adulthood were connected through experience instead of institutions. When food was secured and danger was low, people likely spent time talking, resting, repairing objects, creating stories, and observing nature. These quiet moments may have shaped imagination itself. Human creativity did not begin in cities. It began around ancient fires. Eventually, some groups stayed longer in one place. Temporary camps became repeated settlements. Repeated settlements slowly created structure. Structure created responsibility. Responsibility later evolved into organized labor. The earliest roots of work were appearing, but even as structure grew, life still remained connected to survival. Ancient people did not divide life into categories like work and free time. Hunting could be social, building could be meaningful, rest could prepare survival. Everything existed together. Looking back, modern people often envy the idea of simpler ancient living. Yet ancient life demanded awareness, patience, and cooperation. Every day required attention to the environment. Their freedom came with responsibility. The shift toward agriculture, thousands of years later, changed everything. Fields needed schedules. Storage created ownership. Villages became permanent. Slowly, human activity became organized into something recognizable today as work. This transformation took thousands of years. Jobs did not appear overnight. They emerged from countless generations adapting to changing conditions. Ancient humans never planned to invent work. They simply solved problems until society changed. So, what did ancient humans do all day before jobs existed? They lived. They survived, learned, rested, explored, created, and shared responsibility. Their world was uncertain, but deeply connected. Perhaps the biggest surprise is this: ancient humans were never doing nothing. They were building the foundations of everything that came later, including the modern world itself. As human settlements slowly became larger, daily activities changed again. People no longer moved constantly. Some stayed to protect stored food, while others explored surrounding land. Tasks became more regular. For the first time in history, certain people began repeating the same responsibilities day after day. Ancient humans were slowly creating routines that would later become occupations. With routine came expectation. Communities started depending on specific skills. The strongest hunted, the experienced guided, and the observant remembered paths and seasons. Human identity slowly shifted from surviving alone to contributing together. This was not employment yet, but it was the beginning of social roles. As generations passed, knowledge became inheritance. Children learned daily behavior by watching adults. Nobody asked what career they wanted. Life itself taught survival. Every ordinary day became part of a much larger story that shaped future civilization. Eventually, agriculture transformed human life. Farming required staying in one place. Seasons became schedules. Storage created responsibility. Slowly, days became organized and predictable. What began as survival was becoming structured work. So what did ancient humans do before jobs existed? They lived directly. They moved with nature, worked for survival, shared responsibilities, and created meaning together. Their days were not empty spaces waiting to be filled. Their days built the foundation of human history itself. And perhaps this is the strangest truth of all. Ancient humans never woke up asking what job they would do. They woke up asking what life required from them. Every sunrise brought uncertainty. Every fire brought comfort. Every day demanded attention, movement, cooperation, and adaptation. There were no offices, no salaries, no weekends. Yet their lives were not empty. They explored mountains without maps, built shelters without instructions, learned without schools, and created meaning without modern systems. The world they lived in was harsh, but it was direct. What they did each day was not separate from living itself. And maybe that is why their story still feels familiar. Because beneath technology, schedules, and modern routines, we are still human, still searching, still adapting, still trying to build a life. So the next time you wonder what ancient humans did before jobs existed, remember this. They were not waiting for life to begin. They were already living it. Fade to black. Text on screen. Ancient truth.